Hi, we are at the point now of doing the quilting. So we've done the painting, we've done the stitching over the black stitching around all the artwork, and now we're going to quilt that background area. We're going to make it some really nice decorative areas. We're going to do lots of different types of stitching through here. So this is a part where you'll actually learn some really interesting designs, and you'll be able to blend them into each other. We're going to do what we call, in the quilting world, they call divide and conquer. So we're going to divide up areas, and then we're going to sew different patterns in each different area. I want to start in this center bit here where it's a little bit puckery and a little bit pokey in the areas, and we'll start with something like bubbles or little pebbles, something small so it really pushes down that background fabric and the flowers come forward. So we'll start with that, and to do that we need to do figure eights. So I'm going to show you on the machine how we do it, and hopefully at home you'll be able to follow along too. So let's get our machine all up and running. So with free motion quilting, you still have your tension on around about 5 or 6, depending on the machine you're on. Have your feet dogs down, and I'm using a top thread that's 100% cotton. And you can then, in the bobbin, also I've got Deco Bob, pre-wound bobbin, and also I have my free motion foot on. I just find an area, there's no real method to this madness, and then we literally start. So to do the actual stitch, we'll get the camera right down in that area, put the needle down and needle up, and let's bury that thread a little. Let's just go a couple of times up and down. And what I'm going to do is actually do a circle going one way and then come back and go the other, like a figure eight. So one way and then back the other. All right, got my gloves, we're ready to go, and I put my machine, because I don't use the foot, so I put my speed on around about half, and if I find that there's any issues, I just stop and reposition myself. So we'll go one way, oops-a-days, and then we go the other. One way, and then the other. So I like to do about 20 minutes at a time. That just helps release the tension on my shoulders and my neck, and I get a little bit la-la in the head because I'm sitting there watching the stitches all the time and I'm not really thinking of a lot. So people ask me a lot, what are you thinking when you do it? Not a great deal. So let's get back into it. Oops, one way and then the other. If you get large and small stitches, don't stress too much. You know, in the whole scheme of things, it's not that big a deal. They will blend in. So go one way and then the other. And you are doing a lot of travelling over the top of the same areas. So over one way, back the other, and figure eight. And they're all different sizes. There's no right and wrong with this. That's the beauty of pebbles or bubbles or whatever you want to call it. That's the beauty of them. But they're a great filler. And we've done that little area. So let's move on to the next area, and we can just cut off. You can also just pick your needle up, move it over like a jump stitch, and we'll keep going. So one way and the other, and it's very small movements with the hand, keeping it nice and steady and slow. The stitching is going a reasonable speed, and my hands are moving reasonably slow. What you can't see on camera is that I'm guiding with my right hand, and I am supporting with my left. And that clanging and banging is it's going through 2 layers of fabric and also a layer of batting, and as well as the stabilizer. So lift up, go over. You got that tiny little area there. I'm just going to go back and forwards in that area and just push that back, stitch that down. Same with these little areas here, they're tiny, and we're going to go in, do the same thing. Just get in there. You can get a couple of bubbles in, great. If not, just do a bit of an echo. Move that out, go down to the next tiny area. Give a stitch backwards and forwards just to fill that up. There's no way these stitches are coming undone. You're stitching over and over all the time in the same areas. It's not coming undone. So a couple of stitches before we start moving. Go to left, then to the right. Back around, left, and then right. And I'm just going to travel down there. Little one in here, travel down here. Just in that area, nice and steady, little tiny stitches, a small movement with the hand. And as we get through that little area, we're coming into the bigger part of it, you can make your bubbles a bit bigger. Now as you get a bit more confident, you can always speed up the machine, and as you speed up the machine you'll need to speed up your hands as well, just that little bit extra, just to keep it consistent. Stitch down there. Cut off. We're going to do the ones over the left hand side, which we're coming over to now. And I always keep my thread above the foot when I'm starting off, and that helps pull that thread down into the actual back of the quilt. Probably speed up some of this just so you're not sitting here getting too bored. Okay, so we've now actually come through all those little areas in between, which is great. So that was done fairly quickly, thanks to cameraman. And now we're going to do some of the area on the outside. Now I'm going to cut this off and I'm going to explain something to you. Now normally I would use like a blue line pen, but I can't find it, so we're going to do it without. So if you have a blue line pen, you can easily mark this out. Quite simple. Okay, so if we can get the down here, you'll see areas. So I normally try not to say use a line like that and then come out directly. So I would come in the middle and make a line here. So I'm just going to stitch the line rather than draw it, and then over this side, rather than coming off here like that and creating a line like that, I would come in the center and come across. That makes sense. So from here to here, and that breaks that area up. So I haven't got this massive big area of white that I'm doing. I'm only concentrating on that area alone. And if you can see, I've already stitched around the outside edge. Don't worry if you get a little bit of puckering, because we're going to do a lot of stitching. It's going to push down anyway. So I'm going to do those right now. And the best way to do those freehand is if you've got a ruler and a ruler foot and all that sort of thing. But I'm going to wing it and just go straight line. If you don't trust yourself on a straight line, do a wavy line. And then if they're all wavy line, then it all works just the same. It still divides it, you'll still conquer it. So let's get this machine back over here. So, foot down, needle up, take that stitch forward, and I might do that wavy line, just keep consistent with it all, and we'll go from there. So wavy line, and go all the way to the edge. Now, rather than cut off at this point, all you got to do is move backwards or forwards, whichever suits, at the width of your foot. Now, that will give you roughly 1/4 inch. Okay, so if I just go stitch, 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 the foot is level with that stitch line, my needle is about there, and that's going to give me 1/4 inch all the way there. So I'm going to turn this around so I can see what I'm doing, and follow that down. And that's done. How clever are we? We've now got a really lovely 1/4 inch line. You can see that? See that? So I'm still not cutting off. I'm going to travel along the edge of the flower, and then I'm going to come into this, actually no, I will cut off. I'll cut off here, and I'll go and do the other side, just to keep it consistent for you. Otherwise you'll freak out when I start doing it halfway and then I change my mind. So we'll just keep it consistent for you. That's always handy. So let's go and do the same thing here. Let's make a nice wavy line. Step up a little, the width of the foot, and back down. So now we can actually work in just that one area there. So I don't know if you can see that from there, but we're going to work in this area at the back here. I tend to move my work around a little bit, which is going to give the cameraman an absolute nightmare to deal with, but we'll do our best to make sure you can see what I'm doing. Now, first things first, you've got to decide what you want. I'm going to cut this off just so you can see this area. So my area now is in this area here, from here all the way around here and here. And I did do that stitch around the edge, so that blocks that area off. Now I can do a couple of things here. I can echo until my heart's content. I can fill it all with bubbles, which is what I've done in here, which will take me 1,000 years. Or I could do something a little bit different. So I could do, say, some more leaves. So we can go up, do some leaves, just the same shape as these. Up here, do some leaves coming off here. And we can also have them come down here, and then we can work in between those. They're stitched in the white fabric, so they'll just blend into the background and they'll become a part of the artwork. Okay, so let's start with that. Now, if you have a blue line pencil, you might, or a grey lead, you might want to do that first. Personally, I'm just going to go and wing it, and we're going to just come up, do that center line, first line, and then do some leaves, exactly like we did here, by following. If you wanted to practice on pen and paper, you could do that first, perfectly fine. Let's go to it. Now I have to do it where I can see, so I've got to do it where it's facing towards me. So hopefully you get to see what I'm doing as well. So foot down, needle down again, just a couple of stitches to knot that off, and we're going to come up here and do some stem of the leaves, straight up, Let's go up on an angle, come out for your first leaf, back down, go up the center of the leaf, back down, and then down that stem again, then up. Another leaf, so we're branching off again, so to speak. A little bit of a teardroppy with a point at the end. Up through the center, back down, down that stem, and go up here. Another leaf at the end of it. The center, back down. And I'm going to do another leaf out this side. Down again, do another leaf. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a pucker coming between here and here, which you could probably just see on camera. Don't stress about that. We're going to fix that. We're going to stitch it to death. So we're not going to see any of that. That's no big deal. But we've now got ourselves a nice big motif of some leaves coming up at a branch, okay? That takes up a huge amount of area and means that there's less stitching to do, which is great. So let's do a little bit on the other side now. Okay, so we've done 2 lots of leaves. So now we need to actually work in between these. So let's get this camera really close. Okay, so basically we've got one motif up the top, okay, up here, and we've got one down the bottom. So we've got 2 motifs in between our leaves. We are going to now fill in that area there because we've also divided between this line and that leaf, that stem. Then we can fill in that area, and then we can fill in that area. So we've divided it, this one area, into now 3 smaller areas, which makes it a lot easier for you to manage. So just by creating a couple of motifs in there, it can be flowers, it can be suns, it can be stars, it can be anything you like, leaves, whatever you like, depending on what your painting is, that helps change up the area for you so that you can then now only concentrate on a small area. And I did notice I have another little area here that I've got to do some bubbles in, and that's easy done. So the first thing I want to do is think about what I want to do in here, and a lot of people sort of panic and are not too sure. I tend to go, okay, I'll have, so there's your larger motifs, so I'll have smaller motifs around it, little patterns, so that it brings that larger one up. I also change between linear and circular, so I've got some bubbles here, so I might do lines filling in there, and then I might do some more circular ones here, and then more lines across here. and just break up that area altogether. So that's what's going to happen here. So I'm going to do some circles in this area here, and I might do some echoing here, around here, build it up a little bit, keep going until I get it to till it meets up with this line here. And then I'm going to do some more circle work, which will be more like swirls, so I'll show you how to do those when we get there. But let's start with this bubble area. Okay, we've filled in those bubbles. Now let's do a bit of echoing, and I'm going to work from the edge of that line, that wavy line we did, all the way around the actual petal, down the leaves, up that way, back up to that other line. So I'm going to work my way around from one side to the other, bang, bang, but all the way around. And I'm going to use my foot as a guide, as the distance between each of these, just like I did on that wavy line that we used to divide the areas up. So first one, I'm going to come in about the width of that foot away. Travel up that line of that stem of that leaf motif we did earlier. And what you'll find is your area for your echo will get smaller and smaller, and it'll change shape, which is what you want. And I think that's enough echoing around that one, and then we'll work on a different pattern. So what I'm going to do now is do some swirls, and swirls are going into a circle then coming back out. So I will demo that with the machine, and hopefully you can follow along as well. So in and then back out, then come up, in and back out. And as you come into the next one, you just keep the same shape, in and back out. And we'll make it a line of them. Now they can be large or small, it doesn't matter, they don't have to be unison. They can be whatever you like. So in and out. Now rather than cutting off and going the other way, I'm echoing that to get back to the other end. Get to an area that I can do a swirl. This one's going behind that piece, so I can just make it like a little line. Same with that one. Make it look like it's behind. Same with that. Sort of follow the lines of what it would be. And then echo back. So you're going to have to go back down the line of that leaf, echo and echo up to that leaf, back down that line of that leaf. It'll get very noisy because it's thready now. And then we can do an echo around there a bit, fill up that nice little area. Some lines. Let's follow up here and let's do some pebbles. As you're getting closer to the edge of the actual quilt, it's going to get harder, so you'll have to hold one hand on the edge of your piece of fabric, just sort of like I am here, and the other hand, so that's my right hand, and my left hand is on the actual quilt piece. And you're going to need to manipulate with this hand and guide with this one. So let's put some swirls in here. Let's echo them. And instead of making them in a line, we're going to just continue on and fill with them. So echo there and there, go back, I want to fill. Here. Echo to fill. Come back and do some more swirls. So I've just filled up all on one side of the actual leaves. Then I've come down, I'm halfway through finishing the other side. So I'm in that second section, and I've done a huge amount of swirls, I've done some pebbles, I've done some echo, I've done all sorts of things. So I don't know if you can see that from there, but yeah, you've got some swirls here. And I can actually fill up this next section here, which is still puffy, you can see it, and I can fill that up with some more, or I can go and do some pebbles, do some large and small ones, or some linear stuff. So I can come back and just echo all the way through here if I wanted to. Personally, I'm going to do some pebbles in there and feed my way back through to around about over this section. So I'll get through here with pebbles, back around, and then out to this section here, which is probably a bit hard to see. So around about there with that stem with some pebbles, and then we'll do a different design here. So I've literally started doing some more swirls, but this swirl's a little bit different, where I'm doing a swirl, then I'm coming up and traveling along the previous one and echoing, and then traveling up, echo, and it makes it look like they overlap. So that's what I'm going to fill this area up here, and then here I'll probably do some more bubbles and pebbles, whatever you want to call them. So I have basically now stitched that whole area, so we'll see if we can get the camera on that whole area there, and you'll be able to see that I've done lots of different designs in this one area, but I've worked in that one section, and that has created some serious interest in the actual background of the quilt. Rather than it being just a typical everyday stipple, we've got some really decorative stuff. So we've divided it, we've created some special features and things like that, like some echoing and leaves and all that sort of thing, swirls and bubbles, and excuse me, and we've done probably 1/5 of the quilt background. So we'll completely, you know, repeat this process through the whole thing, so all the way around. I won't take you through every single step, but that's the way you're going to do it. So you would come down here, you can do some more leaves, do some more quilting, and break that area up into another quarter or a fifth or whatever, and do the same thing again, more leaves, and create different sections exactly the way I did with that top section. And that will create an amazing feature for the background, rather than just being your everyday standard stipple or bubble or echo or whatever. Now, you don't have to be as precise as, you know, like shows and things like that. White on white is very hard to see mistakes. Don't stress about the little things, let it happen, just keep going. You won't unpick it, so don't try. It's too small. And just go steady. Don't try and do it all at once. Don't try and be me, be you, be happy. Don't be perfect, because it's just unrealistic. Be happy rather than perfect. So happy would be completed. A completed quilt is happy. So if you feel that you can't do any of this, that is totally fine, and you just want to do some stippling around the outside, absolutely fine. There's no right and wrong. This just gives you an alternative to what the usual would be. You can do those big swirls all the way around. Whatever you decide will be absolutely 100% okay. In the end, it's your quilt, not mine. My design, your quilt. So go for your life, have a lot of fun with it, and I look forward to seeing some comments if you've got any questions, and also some photos. Love to see them. So thanks for joining me in this wonderful journey of the lilies, and I look forward to seeing results, like I said. Thank you again.